Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Whatever time of day it is, and whatever day it is, I do want to thank you for listening to another episode of AJH Politics. Excuse the clicking sounds in the background or my dog. This is not the world's most professional YouTube channel, but we do our best here. Um, in this particular video, we are going to be talking about the proposed platform and bylaw changes for the Kansas Libertarian Party. That is actually what you are seeing up on the screen right now. I will be talking about them at length later on in the video, so I'm going to be reading them out loud. But if you want to just pause and read what they are, that's what's up there. And yeah, the convention is this weekend. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. And I'm going to just read them, kind of talk about what I do or don't like about it. I've done this once as a practice, so it's fairly new. Probably tell you how I plan to vote on them, and not to say that you can hold me accountable to that. I might change my mind. There's a debate that happens, and I'd like to hear it from other people. And then I kind of forget. I feel like it might be like super majority is required, like 67% in order for these things to officially become adopted. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's read some of this. All right, so Platform Proposal 1 in Article 1, Personal Property Rights and Duties. They have a new subsection 2, which says, we stand opposed to government zoning laws, including but not limited to any restrictions on home businesses, growing and selling food, number and types of animals, types of dwellings, and number and relation of residents. Okay, so in general, yes, I agree with that. Now, I think personally, I would generally say that I mostly stand opposed to government zoning laws. Being just opposed to any and all government zoning laws. Like, for instance, on this concept of types of animals. Now, I know why the libertarians have that in there. It's because they like homesteading, they like chickens, they don't trust big agriculture, and I think that's all great and grand. And I like that idea. I like the idea of maybe some people in suburban areas having some chickens in their backyards or things like that. But you can also appreciate how in some suburban areas or even highly urban areas, they might be like, no, we don't want you to actually have an entire cow in your quarter-acre suburban plot because cows smell bad, they shit a lot, it's going to attract flies, it's going to attract a certain amount of disease. There's a certain amount of where local government might not want that in certain areas. And local government, at least within my opinion, my libertarian opinion, should be the most connected to the people. So that's why I generally stand opposed to government zoning laws. But like I said, this is a yes or no thing. I think this is really important to add to our platform. Going to the part where it talks about restrictions on home businesses, with the incredible growth of work from home stuff going on right now in an increasingly digital, computerized, web-based economy. This idea of being able to run your Etsy store, or if you're just an accounting consultant, and you should be allowed to work from home. You shouldn't have to have a different address just because some local government tells you that you're not allowed to work from there, as if it's literally hurting anybody. I understand the concept of business, industry, home, or residential, single-family residential, multi-family residential zoning. Like, I get the concept of it, but you have to understand when it's not working with how society is evolving. We already talked about the concept of growing and selling food or numbers and types of animals, like gardening and stuff like that. Like, there's some laws out there about how much gardening you're legally allowed to do, in terms of, like, there's a certain amount of food that technically you have to buy from the store. You're not allowed to grow it yourself. Although maybe I'm totally bullshitting on that. I don't know. You can fact check me on that, but that's what it's referencing. Types of dwelling and number and relationship of residents. So, like, for instance, in a single family home, you are only allowed to have a single family there, which is silly. You know, I mean, like, if you and your best friend get along, and then your two wives get along, and your kids get along, and you just want to get a nice, 7-bedroom, 4-car garage place and be like, this is the house that we share together as families, I don't see why you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Now, maybe it's also referencing concepts such as gay relationships and stuff like that, but honestly, none of that matters to me in terms of, like, you want to live somewhere, be allowed to live there. That's my opinion on that. Let's keep this ball rolling to Platform Proposal 2, Article 3, Government and Elections. We have a new subsection, Section 7. We oppose laws that restrict ballot access or grant state recognition and privileges to certain political candidates and groups which deny the voters their rights to consider and support all alternatives. So this might be concepts such as, now of course I'm going to draw a blank. I made a video about it. On ranked choice voting. It might have other laws such as, like I know like in the state of Kansas, you're supposed to get at least 1% of the popular vote in a statewide election, which would be either a presidential, senator, or secretary of state or governor. Those would also be statewide, where everyone's voting in the state is voting on that one office. Whereas like Congress isn't. Even if everyone's voting for Congress, Kansas itself has 4 different districts. Anyway, like I was saying, like you have to get like 1% of the popular vote in order to just maintain your status as a political party. And it's just beyond impossible for third parties to break their foot into U.S. politics. And that's obviously what a third party is going to fight for. So, and I agree with that too. I like the idea of people being able to vote to their heart's content on whatever it is that they choose to vote for. So let's keep this moving. So, Platform Proposal 3, Article 4, Personal Liberties, change from 3. So this is what is currently written. We believe the so-called war on drugs is a war on innocent people. We call for an end to the prohibition of any drug. Will now be changed to the following. We believe the so-called war on drugs is a war on innocent people. We call for an end to the prohibition of any drug. We demand the pardon and exoneration of everyone who has been convicted solely for these crimes. So basically we have just added the sentence, we demand the pardon and exoneration of everyone who has been convicted solely of these crimes. By the way, the word crimes and war on drugs are in quotations there to kind of emphasize the so-called crime or the so-called war or the so-called drugs or whatever it is. In other words, we don't believe that they're crimes. I understand that they are crimes from a technical standpoint of what the law is, but we as in libertarians, and myself, I don't consider that to be criminal for you to smoke marijuana, or even if you're stupid enough to shoot heroin. I think you need help, don't get me wrong, but I don't think you're being a criminal. I think there's a different problem, a different disease that we need to address in that sort of situation. And in short, yeah, I agree with it. By the way, I would imagine that all 3 of these will pass. If you're asking me what my prediction is, yeah, let's keep moving. Moving on to Platform Proposal number 4, Article 5, Judicial Reform. Change from, and Part 1, and then we're also going to do a change from Part 6, and then it's all going to get combined into something new. So change from 1. We believe that restoring a sound judicial system is critical to preserving our independence. An empowered jury system gives citizens direct involvement in and oversight of both legislature and judiciary. This concept is as a crucial component of our system of government. Juries must be informed of their right to judge not only the facts of the case, but the law itself without abrogation or restriction. This is a citizen's last veto of an unfair law. We believe a fully informed jury provision must be enacted as a law in Kansas. Fully informed jury is all capital, by the way, or the first letters are capitalized. So that might be some sort of a thing like defend the guard. But let's keep reading here. Change from 6 now. The right of juries to judge the law of the case, as well as the facts and circumstances surrounding it, is well-settled law, commonly referred to as jury nullification. As the pattern instructions of Kansas, which is, again, capitalized, so that's kind of like probably a formal procedure here. Sorry to interrupt myself. I'll start over. As the pattern instructions of Kansas do not reflect this fact and do not provide for juries to be informed of their rights and powers, the pattern instructions of Kansas should be amended to provide clear instructions for juries of all their rights. Okay, so I don't know if you've ever been on jury duty or not, but I've been selected at least once. I got to show up, and The judge comes out there and he's basically like, "Hey, this is what the case is. This is before they start weeding you out." My trial never went to trial, so nothing ever really happened. But the judge comes out and he starts talking about how important this is and how, like, this is an honor and all that sort of like good stuff. And basically, what people don't know is there's something out there called jury null. So that's the patterns and instructions of Kansas. That is what the government has to do to make certain that the jurors are literally informed of what powers they have. Because you're not a lawyer, you're not a judge, you're just a juror probably, so you don't really know how this all works. And one of those rights is something called jury nullification, where basically if someone is convicted of something, let's just say, I don't know, smoking dope or something like that, as much as that person might be 100% guilty of smoking dope, you can still find that person innocent because you believe the law of smoking dope is an illegal law, which is kind of like you get to veto out that entire law. Now, by all means, do your own research on how this all works. If I'm saying bullshit or not, I don't know. I'm trying to give you as much knowledge as I know, and I could be uninformed or whatever, misinformed. But but you'd have to have all 12 juries agree on it, right? So anyway, let's see what it's going to change to. We believe that restoring a sound judicial system is critical to preserving our independence. An empowered jury system gives citizens direct involvement in and oversight of both legislature and judiciary. This concept is a crucial component of our system of government. Juries must be informed of their right to judge not only the facts of the case, but the law itself without abrogation or restriction. This is a citizen's last veto of an unfair law. The pattern instructions of Kansas should be amended to provide clear instructions for juries of all their rights. We believe a fully informed jury provision, commonly referred to as jury nullification, must be enacted as a law in Kansas. So basically, they just kind of mash those two things together. By the way, leave a comment down below if you're still listening, and if you know what abrogation means. I mean, I have a general idea, I think. But the law itself, without restriction or without any way of keeping knowledge hidden, I guess, something to that, a way of restriction, something. Anyway, yes, I think that'll pass too from other people, but who knows, golly. Platform proposal number 5, Article 5, judicial reform. Here we go. Change from to. We strongly defend property rights and, in the case of crimes against property, advocate restitution for victims of crime to be paid for by the wrongdoer. The criminal justice system should concentrate upon crimes against people and property. It should not concern itself with private consensual activities among adults. All laws pertaining to victimless crimes should be repealed. Change to. We strongly defend property rights and, in the case of crimes against property, advocate restitution of victims of crime to be paid for by the wrongdoer. The criminal justice system should concentrate upon crimes against people and property. It should not concern itself with private consensual activity among adults. All laws pertaining to victimless crimes should be repealed. We demand the pardon and exoneration of everyone who has been convicted solely for these crimes. And again, crimes is in quotations there. So basically, we just added this sentence about demanding pardoning for people convicted of crimes that we don't believe are actually criminal. And yes, I agree with it. I think it'll pass. And it's kind of the same justification as what I talked about before when it was talking about drug legalization in, what was that, platform number 3. So let's keep this moving on. All right, platform proposal number 6, Article 6, health freedom. Change from 5, we call for the dissolution of the FDA, CDC, and OSHA. They do more harm than good. Any legitimate services they claim to offer can be better provided through the free market and without coercion. Change to 5, we call for the dissolution of the Kansas Department of Agriculture, KDHE, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and ISH, the Kansas Department of Labor, Industrial Safety, and Health Division. They do more harm than good. Any legitimate services they claim to offer can be provided through the free market and without coercion. So I'm a little curious about what's going on with this one. maybe it's because the FDA, the CDC, and OSHA are more of a federal issue, and we're trying to focus more on Kansas specific stuff. Um, this is can get weird. There's certain anarchists that simply don't believe in any government, and I'm not one of those persons. But um, there's certain other things that I understand why they exist, and and how inefficient they are from a Doge perspective. So, like for instance, the Kansas Department. So I work in civil engineering, and I think it is the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Maybe the and environment part. I have to go to that website to like look up rainfall data, and it just I don't know. Like, why is the health department there? I don't know. I I'm very curious to hear what people have to say about this. Like, why is this language so important? Like, are we totally cool with the CDC now? Because it seems weird to be getting rid of that. So I don't know. I'll probably vote yes if this is just more of about like an idea. Like, let's focus on Kansas related stuff because this is the Kansas Libertarian Party as opposed to a national Libertarian Party. But yeah, we'll have to see. So anyway, that's all the platform stuff. Now here's into the bylaws, which is even more boring. But here we go. Bylaw proposal number 1. Paragraph 4, meetings in quorum, subsection 1A, Roman numeral III, platform. Change from, the platform is a non-binding statement of the party's position on important statewide and local issues. Any changes to the platform shall be adopted before nomination of candidates. Change to, the platform is a non-binding statement of the party's position on important statewide and local issues. Any changes to the platform shall be adopted before nomination of partisan candidates for public office. So just a little bit of nitty-gritty stuff there in terms of when we do our conventions during an election year, we have to do this stuff. And then you go through and you're like, okay, who's going to run for this office and run for that office and stuff like that. And this is just kind of changing language about it with the idea that this is for your partisan candidates. Like if someone needs to run for school board, or maybe they want to run for the Libertarian Party's website manager, or like whatever. That's not a public office. So it's just trying to be a little bit more specific about kind of what that is trying to do there. I'm thinking yes, but I mean we'll see what people have to say about like pros and cons on that. Bylaw proposal 2, paragraph 3. The State Executive Committee and Officers, subsection 2A, Chief Executive Officer. Change from, the state chair, let's start over. The state chair shall preside over all meetings, conventions, and committees at his or her pleasure. The state chair will see that the treasurer establishes and maintains an efficient system of accounts. The state chair shall appoint all ad hoc committees and their chairs with the advice and consent of the State Executive Committee. Change 2. The state chair shall preside over all meetings, conventions, and committees at his or her pleasure. The state chair will see that the treasurer establishes and maintains an efficient system of accounts. So basically what we're saying is that the state, they're striking this language about the state chair shall appoint ad hoc committees and chairs with advice and consent of the State Executive Committee. I don't know how I feel about that. Probably yes. I mean, I get that there's this libertarian idea of too much power in one spot. That's probably why it's being stricken down, because they don't like the idea that the state chair has all this power. But at the same point, someone's got to appoint, I guess, these committees and chairs. And I'm a little curious, if it's not the state chair, who is it? Is it the State Executive Committee? Like who is it? Like who's going to do it then? Like that's where I'm like a little weirded out by how that's written right now. But I'd like to learn more and hear from the people that wrote it and what its pros and cons are and how it's interpreted within context of all the other stuff. All right, on to bylaw number 3, paragraph 4, meetings in quorum, subsection 1A, IV, delegates to the National Convention. Change from, delegates to the National Convention shall be selected at the state convention. All voters for delegates shall be by written ballot, and not this person shall always be an option. If not this person receives 1/2 or more votes, the person who is rejected shall not serve as a delegate to the National Convention. If there are insufficient numbers wanting to attend the national convention at the time of the state convention, the state chair can nominate and the state executive committee can fill the delegation at a later time. The state chair or his or her designee shall chair the state delegation to the national convention. The chair of the delegation shall have authority to fill any vacant seats at the national convention. Change 2, delegates and alternatives. So that's what they more or less added, by the way, as I continue to reading. But let's start this over. Delegates and alternatives to the national convention shall be selected at the state convention. All votes for delegates and alternates shall be by written ballot, and not this person shall always be an option. If not this person receives 1/2 or more of votes, the person who is rejected shall not serve as a delegate to the national convention. If there are insufficient numbers wanting to attend the national convention at the time of the state convention, the state chair can nominate and the state executive committee can fill the delegation at a later time in accordance with paragraph 2, membership, subsection 1A. The state chair or his or her designee shall chair the state delegation to the national convention. Subsection 1A5 or V, LPKS delegates at the national convention. The delegation shall have sole authority to fill any vacant seats at the national convention in accordance with paragraph 2, membership, subsection 1A, to select representation on the Libertarian National Committee and shall have authority to make all decisions at the national convention. Okay, here we go. So all that gobbledygook is basically about how obviously delegates get taken to the national convention, about if you don't get enough through, so like we would, I believe, get to send, you know what, I really don't know how it all works, but basically these are the people that then go to the national convention, and these are the people that then vote and say, this is who I want to be the presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party, in case you were curious kind of how that works. This is what they're talking about. Who gets to actually make those votes? And these are people who have to earn that through their own state party's vote. And then because the party is what it is, if they're like, oh yeah, Kansas, you guys get 6 people, and only 4 people even volunteer to be like, all right, cool, I'll go to a convention that's in Tallahassee, Florida this year, or whatever it is, buy my airfare, get a hotel, go through all the stuff that I have to do to go vote for somebody who's, let's just be honest, probably not going to win the election. Sometimes the volunteering is a little weak, but also it's really interesting. It's really fun. It's something that'd be cool to do. I'd like to do it at some point. Anyway, these people, this is how they get filled between all these people. I'm inclined to just be like, okay, fine. They must have written this for a reason, and I'm curious what that reason is. And they'll talk about it, and I'll hear the pros and cons. And I'm thinking yes at a glance, but I don't know. It's much. It's a little much to read. Let's move on to bylaw proposal number 4. Paragraph 4, meetings and quorum, subsection 1A IV, delegates to the National Convention. Change from, here we go. Delegates to the National Convention shall be selected at the state convention. All votes for delegates shall be by written ballot, and not this person shall always be an option. If not this person receives 1/2 or more votes, the person who is rejected shall not serve as a delegate to the National Convention. If there are insufficient numbers wanting to attend the National Convention at the time of the state convention, the state chair can nominate and the state executive committee can fill the delegation at a later time. The state chair or his or her designee shall chair the state delegation to the National Convention. The chair of the delegation shall have authority to fill any vacant seats at the National Convention. Change 2, delegates and alternates to the National Convention shall be selected at the state convention. All votes for delegates and alternates shall be by written ballot, and not this person shall always be an option. If not this person receives 1/2 or more of the votes, the person who is rejected shall not serve as a delegate to the National Convention. If there are insufficient numbers wanting to attend the National Convention at the time of the state convention, the state chair can nominate and the state executive committee can fill the delegation at a later time in accordance with paragraph 2, membership, subsection 1A. The state chair or his or her designee shall chair the state delegation to the National Convention. The chair of the delegation shall have authority to fill any vacant seats at the National Convention in accordance with paragraph 2, membership subsection 1A. Okay, kind of the same thing. It's actually talking about some of the same stuff, but basically they're changing the language to talk about alternates. They're also changing about, I believe, how these alternates, or if there's not enough people, how we start to fill up chairs. They do talk about membership with the idea that you want to make certain someone's a registered member of the Libertarian Party, or maybe they've been a member for a certain amount of time, just to start to, just so nobody, joins the party and 24 hours later they're voting for like the presidential candidate. Like as if that's fair. Like you kind of want people that have been in the movement for a certain amount of time to do it. Whatever that stuff means about subsection 1A, I'll have to listen to what the pros and the cons are from the people that like know this stuff a little bit better than me in terms of how I'll vote when they actually do the debate about whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. But anyway, that's it. That's what I have to look forward to for an entire weekend. There'll probably be some drinking too and partying, so that'll be fun. But anyway, this video has definitely been long enough, so I'm just gonna say goodbye to you. Thank you for listening. Until next time, which I don't know what the next topic is gonna be, but I will again post at least something come May. Thank you. Bye.